It was cool when we got in there.
Well, it was way too cold. And so then I made everyone sweat a little. Oh, we all need a second.
Well,
Did you think Isaac works? Oh, yeah. Well, thanks, Isaac.
she flew to Vegas. Yeah, she was at the Packer game last night.
File number, yeah, 190.
I'm ready when you are.
Are you ready at public access? All right, we got a thumbs up. We are back in open session. Welcome back. So I guess we will go back to our item, file number 190921. This is a resolution approving a cooperation agreement between Wausau Opportunity Zone, Inc. and City of Wausau related to the redevelopment of the former Was site. Looks like I have a motion and a second already. I have a motion by Alder Rasmussen and a second by Alder Watson. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
some technical difficulties
Yeah,
here with our
nobody's-
system.
Are the buttons not working?
No, no, I know.
Are you pushing your button? I mean, you're pushing my button.
Gotta get restarted.
Oh, you are, okay. Did you request it, did you want to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just wait a second, it's no problem. We're good?
It's working.
Alrighty.
There we go.
Alder Killian.
Thank you. I'd request a roll call vote on this, Madam Chair, when we vote on it. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, under the rules?
yeah, okay. Alder Dinney.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm going to request, and I guess this would be via directive to the staff, economic development, that they provide a monthly in-packet update to the city council on the city expenses, the city draws, city issues, to include the WAS update and T-wall update relative to where they come in on their projection on the equity stack, so that we are being able to monitor on a gauge basis from now until 20 weeks from now, when we're going to need to find out if they're there.
Okay. I don't know that we require an amendment, but I think we all agreed that that was something we'd like to see.
Sure, and I didn't.
Including
I didn't
staff.
amend. That's not an
Seeing them
amendment.
nodding back there.
Okay.
Additional comments or questions? Or are we ready to vote? All right, I don't see anybody's light on, so I guess you'll call the roll.
Yeah, I will request that no one hits their buttons, because then I'll do it.
No pushing buttons right now. And again, this is the WAS agreement that we're voting on. All right.
Lukens,
Aye.
Martins,
Aye.
Killian,
No.
Denny,
Aye.
Gisselman,
Aye.
McElhaney,
Aye.
Rasmussen,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
Larson,
No.
Hanky.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-2.
All right, we are now on to our next item, file number 230815. This is a resolution approving the First Amendment to the development agreement between Foundry on Third, Phase 1 LLC, and the City of Wausau. It looks like I have a motion by Alder Rasmussen and a second by Alder Watson. Is there any discussion? Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd request a roll call vote, please.
That request is acknowledged. Any comments or questions?
Doug has made a motion
Oh.
to amend.
Do you have a motion to amend, Alder Dinney?
Yes.
All right, maybe you could provide us with what that motion to amend is.
And I would move to amend that 60 to 90 days, we can pick the date. I think 90 days is good. That either WAS or combination of WAS, T-wall provides written notice to proceed before the city puts a shovel in the ground to finish the excavation and cleanup of that site.
Okay, so the amendment is, did you want to stick with 90 days?
I guess I would defer that to Eric or to someone in economic development or engineering to tell me what that number should be. I think it feels like 90, but it could be 60, I don't know.
Okay, Mr. Lindman is approaching the podium.
I would be comfortable with 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we should move forward with it. The amendment is in 60 days. We would be provided with written notice to proceed from WAS and T-Wall in order, before we put a shovel in the ground. So before we do anything else, do I have a second to that amendment? And it might, maybe if you want to raise your hand if you are a second, and we'll note
I
it.
can bring up a thing in a second.
Or is there nobody? Okay, the amendment may die due to lack of a second, unless, I'm just making sure. Okay, I'm not seeing a second, so that amendment will not be discussed. Okay, so now we're moving back to our discussion on the resolution as presented. Alder Gisselman.
Yes, thank you. This certainly has been a lot of controversy within the community within the last several months, and a lot of people have come up to me, and I just want to acknowledge the people that have spoken to me with regard to this issue. I think the issue isn't whether the project proceeds or not, but I think it's in the involvement of the citizens, the public trust, the public treasury with regard to this project. I think the overwhelming consensus was that and I'm hearing that they would be voting no. And I, of course, that my vote on this has been pretty consistent against high-end apartments for people that really, for my constituents as well as for a good part of the city, that have no relationship to it. People coming up to me in the community centers, wherever they see that a local alder person has something to listen to them, and like I said, the consensus is vote no, Gary, and I'm just carrying and that bolsters my sense of what I've been thinking about this from day one, and I will thus continue to vote no. Some larger issues, I think, came up in this debate this evening, and the larger issues of perhaps the committee of the whole, but are on every individual issue, whether it be zoning or a project within a neighborhood, each stands on its own, and it's just not a sense of what's right, how I vote or whatever. But I think that I bring a sense of the neighborhood, a sense of the community, and I think this issue certainly has a large sense of the community, and what I'm hearing is a negative impact within the city of Wausau's commitment to it. I think a word used before was an obligation. And I have an obligation to the people that spoke to me, to my district in an April election. And that's how I feel, and I think that a committee of the whole should be called so that we can talk about housing, the city's involvement in it, to what extent there's going to be public trust, public treasury in housing. I think that this community is not of one mind, and I think the city council has to be dealing with that as far as how we go into the future, because how we proceed into the future is, I think, quite important as to how we're going to be spending our monies, and I'm quite careful about that. So with that, I thank you.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would echo some of Alder Gisselman's sentiments about community feelings and the obligations that we have as a body to address them and serve them. And this has certainly been a complex, trying situation. And I think probably no one on the body has taken the deliberation or decisions lightly. And so it's complex and it's challenging. But I would underscore the concerns that I made prior to going into closed session, that my concern is the cooperative agreement with WAS still puts the city and the taxpayer at an unacceptable level of risk. And I think that we probably were not able to come to terms that would have been more protective of the city and our people. Obviously, that didn't happen earlier due to the delay that we've seen. And also, I think in terms of the difficulty of this decision, I think a portion of it is looking at the risk analysis of, hey, we may be facing a delay if we do not approve this extension, but let's be clear for the body and the public that by approving this extension, if the commencement deadline arrives next year and we are told at that point that it's not going to occur, that risk and that consequence will be very much compounded, and we will be in a much worse situation. Our downtown will be in a worse situation than it is now, and so will the community at large due to the rolling of the dice on this. So while it's not an easy decision, make no mistake, if this is approved and it doesn't happen next year at the commencement deadline, the city has split and doubled down on a very bad hand, and what it loses we probably cannot afford. So I wanted to lay that out there, and it is with sympathy for our downtown businesses and our community, and with great concern that if we don't seize the opportunity to pivot now, if this does not happen a year from now, the ship will have sunk much deeper by then. And just on that risk analysis, we have to look objectively in a fact-based matter. What has happened in recent history and past history with the city and in other cities? Recall that we could not come to a fruitful development with the same developer on the riverfront. So that was in Wausau. In Watertown now, the developer was not able to meet the contractual deadlines, and the Watertown Council unanimously made the decision to move on, likely, I would think, in the interests of their city and people. And there are other delays as well, as we know, in such towns as Oshkosh. So all of the key performance indicators here are looking very worrisome. So I had a constituent, I talked to a constituent today on the phone who had some feedback, and he was going to come to the meeting and speak, but he could not make it. But he said to me on the phone, you know, if a neighbor hired a company or contractor and had an agreement, and that work was not done according to the agreement, and the neighbor knew that, why would they possibly hire that company after the recent performance or lack of performance? So I thought the constituent put it in kind of a common sense way. I agree with him and others who have had concerns, so I will not be supporting this tonight either. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I think it's important for us to remember, based on our discussion, the benefits that were promised in the WAS agreement that we just approved are contingent upon the approval of this extension. We asked for these things to be tied together. They're tied together. We wanted to move them forward at the same time. We wanted the one before we would agree to the other. So I think it's important to recognize that those two things are linked. I think that we should make no mistake, we need and want this project in our downtown. I think we also need to be clear with all involved that if this passes, it's one extension, it's not an invitation for 2, 3, and 4 extensions. And so, we've shown before that we're not afraid to pull the plug on a project when it exceeds our tolerance, but I think that we can safely grant this extension, and, hopefully things will get going on time, and we will not be asked or put in a position where we have to worry or explain yet another delay. So that said, out in the community, I also encounter an awful lot of people who talk to me about things like this, and I will tell you that the reaction that I've heard is quite the opposite to what one of my colleagues outlined. Everywhere I go, people say to me, get this done. Put something on that site, get it built, and fill it with people. The downtown businesses need it. We have small businesses, some of which are hanging on by a thread, that need people living and working downtown again. And in a post-pandemic environment, that has been a very slow recovery for some of those businesses. We need that happening. And so I've received positive feedback about the project, and the last couple times that we've delayed this decision, I've gotten a couple calls from people who live up by me saying, what is wrong with you people? Why can't you get this done? And I said, hold on, it's not that there's anything wrong with us or our process. We are trying to make sure that we have the best deal that we can come forward with. And so I feel that we have that here. We've negotiated with the parties in earnest, and I think now it's time for us to be an honest partner. So thank you.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Things don't change if things don't change, do they? And I look at this whole thing, and I don't take this decision lightly. I look at performance and personalities. First of all, when it comes to performance, this company has not performed. It's been around for 3 years. It's caused nothing but drama. They've threatened to lawsuit us. We don't need to go any further. And the personalities, I read in a newspaper that, we got to put our personalities aside and let this thing move forward. Well, we can't. We can't have people coming into our house and demanding votes. We can't have people sending letters from their lawyers asking elected officials to recuse themselves. Is this? And then we got to ask ourselves: is this somebody we want to partner with for 20 years? This people of Wausau want to see something down there, and unfortunately, I will not be supporting this because I just don't feel it's right. My constituents don't feel it's right. If we got to start over, we'll start over. There's many other companies that would jump on this opportunity, and I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Lukens.
Thank you, Mayor. As the others have said, I don't think any one of us has taken this lightly. It's difficult because it is a very complex situation. I also think that enough in this community doesn't, may not fully understand the whole situation, in that the city does not own the property. The city does have contracts with WAS, and it is a three-way. So, but I have heard from people. If I think about it, I've heard from many more people that have said, like, come on, that place, it needs to get moving. We need some things here. We need other industries. We need something in that site. In fact, I've gotten, I got a call from someone not even in the city of Wausau, but anyway, so not a constituent. But, so this is a really hard decision because it is a really tough situation. And I think that I'm going to be voting for this. Sitting on Economic Development Committee, I've seen over and over how hard it is right now at times. So it is, the ask from the city is always there. And so anyway, I think just basing it on my experience, what I've been seeing, what I've been hearing from constituents, I will be voting for it, but it is definitely not an easy decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder McElhaney.
It is no secret of how I feel about this developer. I've been quoted. I too have read, keep the personalities out of it. I try, but I fear, and that's what I do. I fear how this is all going to work. With that being said, I also want to protect our taxpayers, and because this is linked between the taxpayers not on the hook for WAS calling off of Melvin and to do that kind of work, if this isn't passed, they're going to be on the hook. And I don't feel that's correct. So this is a very, very, very tough decision for me because I want to be very clear. I want something on that lot. I want something on Block 5. I want something everywhere. That has never been a discussion about there shouldn't be development. And it can be housing. I have nothing against housing. I have nothing against market rate housing. But what I have great fear with this developer, because of the linkage and the taxpayer liability, I am reluctantly going to support this just for that reason alone. And I will make it very clear, do never come back. You will have a no vote. If I'm in this seat, you will have a no vote if you come back with any excuse. I don't care what it is. I just want to see something on there, and I agree with other alders, is that this isn't our first rodeo with this developer. We worked with it in the riverfront. But we did kick him to the curb after 3. But this is a very, very, very tough vote for me. But somebody mentioned we're halfway there to, what is the start date, March 1st or June 1st?
June. But we were asking for some updates earlier than that.
Okay, yeah. So, I guess I want, I'm going to have a lot of very upset residents, and I would like, I do get people coming to me. I have 2 neighborhood meetings a month. They are very upset. They too want something down there. They want something down there now. And I keep saying, oh, it was going to start in spring. Then it was going to start in June. I mean, this kind of stuff makes us look dumb, because we tell people what we think is going to happen and it doesn't materialize. So they want something down there, but they really, because of all the issues that we've had in the, since June that has been public, they really do not trust this developer. So I'm going against their wishes, and I want people to understand that. That's how hard it is. I'm going against their wishes. Hopefully, we will see something, but I will never vote for another extension. And this is, again, just because I want to defend the taxpayer against issues that were caused by somebody other than them. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Denny.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would agree with Gary, if we want to change some direction in some other areas like housing, we should convene a committee of the whole and get that going. And let's put it in our strategic plan, commit to it, put some courses of action together, and make that happen. But as to this project, the role really is complicated for the city, and citizens are confused. And why wouldn't they be? They're driving by a site here on 5th and Washington and see rubble and weeds for 20 weeks. Without a decision from the city, they're not looking at it and saying, when is Chuck Adorsey going to get going? When is Nick Patterson going to get going? They're saying, what is the city doing? The city bears the responsibility for a central piece of property downtown, whether we're responsible for all aspects or not, we still are the overriding responsible party. So the time that we've wasted, John F. Kennedy said, let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Well, I think we feared to negotiate 20 weeks ago, and we slow-rolled this thing. We should have put the pressure on then. We would have had more options. I asked to convey the property. That was considered a bad practice. I asked for performance bonds. I couldn't get any feedback on that with council. I wanted to see a formal letter of notice to proceed to give some sort of a hook to get something back, even small. Couldn't get a second. So, we've got to, we are taking a risk. I agree with you. But let's not make it look like we didn't do everything, or that we did everything we could. We didn't. The city sets the pace. The city sets the tone. The city sets the expectations for all of these developers here. We failed to do that. Now we're in a corner. We're at the end of this, coming into winter. I don't think we're going to gain a lot of time by canceling this now. But I would like to know before June 1st, and I think March 1st would be a good time to know that we're going to proceed. So whether or not you accept that as an amendment, I want it known on the record that I want to see a letter in writing on March 1st letting us know that they are ready for us to proceed. So before the city spends any more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Lukens.
Thank you. So I would just also like the public to know that there have been many, 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 many conversations with the attorneys for the city, with a number of different attorneys. And even if we vote differently, every single alder on this council, I think, is really trying to make this decision the best that they can. As for what else the city could have done, again, I just want to go back to that attorney part, because with it being a different situation, the city doesn't own the property, and it's not only that, but there are some things legally. It's not as simple as it appears. So I just don't want the public to be misled about that either. And the other thing I was going to say is, if the developer is ready to go, and this is passed, then while I realize that the start date is June, why not sooner? Why couldn't we see that sooner? That's what I would like to see. So if the developer is really ready to go, then let's see it. So just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to speak to some of the commentary. I thought perhaps there was some confusion or an illusion about at least one element, and that is tonight, yes, the cooperative agreement states that they're tied together, that if we don't approve this extension, then that agreement won't fly with was, but that's by no means the only choice that we have, as I understand it. So we do not have to approve that extension to legitimately pursue being made whole. So just because the agreement says that, and many colleagues may approve it, that is by no means the only choice. In fact, I would argue that the responsible policy decision would be to not approve the extension, pursue being made whole for the interference in our agreements that caused the delay and apparently some associated economic harm. And if that's not acceptable to our partners, then I guess we say, see you in court. So we do not have to approve an extension just to legitimately pursue recourse if we feel that due to the delay we have suffered financial consequences. So it may have been the way the agreement was written, but by no means do we have to do that. And I'd say that's probably not the ideal choice. And in terms of it was the city's, it was said that it was the city's failure on some of these things, and the poor private sector developers, apparently they got it bad. I mean, they're being subsidized with like $10.8 million of public assistance, but apparently they're the ones in the tough seat. And, JFK said the line about negotiating. Well, if JFK had negotiated, I guess, like we had with the private sector, they wouldn't have just had missiles in Cuba. Those missiles would have been in Texas because we did not negotiate like we could have. And Wausau should assert itself. Historically, as our people know, many constituents and citizens talk to me about it frequently. We have an established good old boys culture in town that's been documented. It's not urban legend. The Herald did a nice series on the Wausau group in the 1980s. I think some of us here have read it, about private public sector dynamics and some of the problems that occurred with those from some of the earlier property acquisitions with the mall to the purchase of the Connor property to a whole host of other historical incidents. We have had that, but what we could have done tonight is to start to depart from that history and say we will not defer and succumb to undue influence from a select group of power and place that over the needs of our people. We could have done that tonight, and I don't think we probably will, unfortunately. But also the insistence on the notice to proceed. I agree with Alder Denny that it would have been nice to have some assurance, but I mean, I think that seems almost in the realm of satire at this point. We had valid legal agreements, tight legal agreements that went through our attorneys and outside counsel, and not even those were enough to reap what we were promised, not on the riverfront and not on the mall. So I don't see how some kind of chicken soup for the soul note on letterhead is going to provide the city protection. If we want protections, let's build in some appropriate clawback. So I too wanted to clarify some things, and I think we could have handled this more responsibly for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to comment on some of the commentary. When the term comes up, we waited 20 weeks. I want to make this for the public record. It wasn't until those 20 weeks that it was brought to us as a council. So maybe in the future, these things could be brought to us in a more timely fashion. And as far as us as a body here, we always seem to get the blame, the city council, this city council, that. We acted appropriately as it was brought to us. And that's all I can say. This whole thing's been a mess. It's been confusing for our constituents, but we as a council have acted appropriately as it has brought to us. Whether it was 20 weeks later or a month later, the delays on the decisions were delays because the stuff hasn't been brought to us. And thank you.
Alder Denny.
And thank you. Alder Larson, I would agree. We're in agreement there. We set the tone. We set the pace. When I mentioned earlier when we had the hiccup on the water, It was resolved within days. We found out, and you even mentioned, and I think your words were, why are we always the last to know? And we were called into, I think on a Thursday, a Monday emergency council meeting. People were running around with their hair on fire. This is a big deal. Well, we brought the contractor in. We tuned him up right here in public. He stood at that podium. And within a few weeks, and I believe it was the 20th of December, the mayor was able to announce we turned the spigot on the water plant. So could you imagine? And we were in control then, just as we are tonight. If we would have waited 20 weeks to turn the water on. I mean, it's ridiculous and ludicrous to even say that, but this, and it's apples and oranges potentially, but this is still an extremely important project for the city. Yes, it was initiated by some of the developers, but the city played along with it and slow rolled this for 20 weeks, Lou.
Is there any further comment? I guess I will then share my comments. Thank you to this body for your careful deliberation. It's been a long time. As you can imagine, having 3 sets of lawyers doesn't make for speedy negotiations, but I think we got there, at least in this moment. I do want to say that I don't look at this as anything more than maybe even an airbag for this project. We need to give it a shot at survival, I think. I want to thank the staff and all the attorneys for all of the hours and overtime they put in for this. I also want to thank all of the local businesses that came out to support this. I know that was hard, and you're putting yourself in a spot where your customers are mad. I know that I get talked to very similarly to President McElhaney. So it's a hard one, but I think whatever we end up doing with here is going to be the right decision. And I also want to say I will not support another extension either. I won't support any more litigious discussion in public about our alders. I won't support being talked to the way we've all been talked to by a developer. I was so alarmed that I asked some of my fellow mayors across Wisconsin, which developers do you like working with? Because I'm struggling. And they basically said nobody. So I think this is maybe a place where this isn't my world every day, but I do think that we'll get there. I think our expectations have to be that we work as a team. We have 3 parties here, so we want to be kept in the loop. As soon as changes happen, that was clear. In closed session, it was clear out here again. So that is the expectation. And I know that we'll continue having all kinds of discussions about this as we proceed. So I think we're ready to vote.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Okay, I will ask again, no one touched their iPad.
Yeah, please don't touch the buttons.
Lukens.
Aye.
Martins.
Aye.
Killian.
No.
Denny.
Aye.
Gisselman.
No.
McElhaney.
Aye.
Rasmussen.
Aye.
Watson.
Aye.
Larson.
No,
Hanky.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-3.
All right, we have one final motion I would entertain. I have a motion to adjourn by Alder Watson and a second by Alder Henke. All in favor can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone.